The solar eclipse on April 8th is becoming a major event. The National Guard is being deployed, and the people are being advised to have 2 weeks of food and to fill their fuel tanks. This could all be explained due to the fact that tens of thousands of visitors are expected along the path of totality. But many people believe that they could be preparing for possible earthquakes due to the Devil Comet aligning with the April 8th eclipse, and due to the fact that in 1811, a comet also appeared in the skies during a solar eclipse on the same path and was followed by the biggest earthquakes in American history.
A major earthquake has struck off the coast of southwestern Japan. It's a magnitude 7.5.
All right, just want to bring you an update on the earthquake near Taiwan. 7.5 magnitude earthquake. It happened at 21 kilometers southeast of Hualien City in Taiwan. This is according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Very strong shaking at magnitude of that strength. That was felt widely in the Taiwanese capital, Taipei. Now, a tsunami warning has also been issued for a number of those small Japanese islands that you see there just to the northeast of Taiwan. Also a tsunami warning for Japan's Okinawa prefecture. The local residents told to evacuate, and tsunami waves as high as 3 meters are being potentially forecast.
Known as the New Madrid earthquakes, around 10,000 earthquakes occurred in just 3 months' time, the biggest being measured at 8.8 magnitude. They were the most devastating series of earthquakes in recorded history. This eclipse season is, however, a very rare event. The recent eclipses in August of 2017 and October of 2023, along with the upcoming one on April 8th, forms an Aleph and a Tav over the United States. The Aleph and Tav are the first and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. These eclipses mark the end of the Great Year, a 26,000-year period that starts anew with the dawning of Aquarius and a new golden age. Manly P. Hall wrote that high-level Masons designed America for a peculiar and particular purpose, a secret destiny to bring about a new Atlantis, or a new world order, wherein a king descended of a divine race will rule over all. In rituals, this king is symbolized as Apollo, Horus, or Nimrod, the father of Freemasonry, and is thought to be a descendant of the biblical Nephilim, or the Sumerian Anunnaki. According to Thomas Horn, this will happen in 2025, which corresponds to several documents published by intelligence agencies, such as Global Governance 2025, Global Trends 2025, and the 2025 Deagle Forecast on World Population. NASA is notorious for performing Masonic rituals based on the Egyptian mystery schools, Apollo being the same character as Horus, Sirius representing Isis, and Atlantis being the new golden age they hope to restore. And during the eclipse on April 8th, NASA will fire 3 rockets named after Apep, the Egyptian serpent god, whose goal was to devour Ra, the sun. And when the sun reemerges after 3 minutes of darkness, it will be likened to the rebirth of Horus, their new king of the Golden Age. CERN, known for practicing occult rituals at a statue of Shiva, the Hindu god who symbolizes death, destruction, and the end of an age, will be firing up their Large Hadron Collider to full power during the solar eclipse. And Israel, who is in the midst of committing genocide, is preparing to sacrifice a red heifer, a ritual sacrifice to prepare them for taking back the Temple Mount.
Red heifers, to be precise. Some Jews and Christians believe they're the key to rebuilding the historic Jewish temple in Jerusalem and to beckoning the Messiah. To understand, you have to go back nearly 2,000 years when the ancient Romans destroyed the last temple in the city. To rebuild it, these believers point to the Bible's book of Numbers. It commands the Israelites to sacrifice a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Only then can the temple rise again. Those sacred cows were showcased in Washington at a recent prayer gathering. Many evangelicals believe these red heifers will usher Christ's second coming.
And we need the Messiah to come, right? So for me, the red heifer, it's red for the blood of Jesus Christ.
A massive altar already awaits, where the heifers are to be burned. According to some believers, the ceremony needs to be performed right here on the Mount of Olives, looking directly into where the temple once stood. But something else now stands in its place.
Once they forcibly take the Temple Mount away from billions of Muslims worldwide, it will predictably thrust the world into the peak of chaos that these secret societies have been designing for centuries. And their plan is to bring order out of this chaos, with their divine king to rule over the world. But these are just rituals, and fear is an illusion. We can always choose love.
New at 6, a swarm of earthquakes continues to shake parts of the South Bay. At least 39 quakes have rattled an area near Hollister since Sunday. The biggest quake happened yesterday with a magnitude 4.2. Meanwhile, a new study says there might be a link between earthquakes, the moon, and sun.
I use the Hebrew calendar, okay? On the Hebrew calendar, April 8th is the last day of the year. The new moon of Aries is the first month of the year, actually. People think Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, but actually the first month in the calendar is Aries, Nisan, and that's on April 8th. So for them, it's their chance to inject the energy they want for the new year. If you look at a bunch of astrologers across different fields of astrology, they're all saying the energy is shifting. So the globalists, obviously, they want to make a big push for evil, negative energy in the new year. What do? Destabilize, make people afraid, and because April 8th is this day they're freaking out about. It's the last day of the year. That's the day that you can inject energy for the new year. They want to, like, if you look at it, all the NFL drafts, the NBA drafts, they're usually on the new moon or the full moon of various months in the Hebrew calendar. So these high-level people, they know what they're doing. They use these dates. If you look at a bunch of astrologers across different fields of astrology, they're all saying the energy is shifting. So the globalists, obviously, they want to make a big push for evil, negative energy in the new year. What do? Destabilize, make people afraid, because that's what they want to push into the new year. So any kind of crisis or fear they want people to have on April 8th, it's because they all have powerful energy. And so for the globalists, they know they want to inject the seed of every new year with negativity, because that's what they harvest. They want to take all of our energy, so they have to implant us with any kind of negativity they can. So absolutely, they are very aware of the astrology. You know, in the newspapers, they put nonsense horoscopes to make it look like childish or foolish to people. But then at the very highest levels, they know exactly what this stuff is used for. Okay, let me reference John Dutoit. I don't know if you know him, you should. He's the director of Hoaxed, great documentary. He went and filmed you. He's a total genius too, and he said that this year, talking about 2024, not the Hebrew calendar like I am, but this guy senses the energy, he reads the signs, and he said, like, this year is a year for karma, and I see all the signs of it. I see it too. The karmic debt is coming due for so many people. This can be a great year of revelation, of great change, of great things happening. I'm seeing it in so many different ways. So they're afraid of this for sure, because if everybody sees who they are, everybody's going to want to, let's say, lock them up. Let's be nice. Everyone's going to want to lock them up at the very least. So they're definitely afraid of this, and we should all be very happy and very positive. This can be the best year we've ever had.
That said, why has Homeland Security been preparing to hijack this biblical event?
The sheriff called me yesterday, and after he got done telling me everything inside this meeting that was happening, I pretty much was nerve-rattled after what I heard. Who's this meeting with? It's with Homeland Security.
People want to do us harm, use an event like this where a lot of people are gathered to do some type of terror event.
The director of the Lake County Emergency Management Agency told me they've been preparing for the solar eclipse now for about 2 years.
They've been preparing for this for 2 years. Imagine that, for 2 years. He said, during the solar eclipse, while people are all out there looking, they're planning, the intel that they've got is a possible biological attack on people while the solar eclipse is freaking happening.
Like, here's from Kenton County Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Here's what you should do before. Ensure you have a full gas tank. Ensure you're stocked on groceries. Have alternative communications for an eclipse that's going to last about an hour. And here's another one. Buy necessary groceries and gas. Expect heavy traffic and long lines for local services.
Oklahoma, the National Guard will have guardsmen present for the total solar eclipse on April 8th. Communication facilities could become overloaded, possibly making cell phone calls difficult. The 22 members of an elite chemical, biological, and radiological and nuclear unit will be housed in Broken Bow, in addition to up to 110 to 150 Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers. There will be about 150 other first responders and volunteers, with many staying at either the sports complex in Broken Bow or in Idabel.
Like Jonah, despite our reluctance, we all must be prepared for repentance, even the repentance of our oppressors. We must also be prepared to respond to whatever the New World Order has up its sleeve. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light.
I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. What is this eclipse? The upcoming total solar eclipse on April 8, 2024 has garnered global attention. This rare phenomenon can be observed from North and Central America and has sparked enthusiasm among astronomy enthusiasts and the public. Social media, news outlets, and scientific websites are abuzz with information, predictions, and tips for viewing this upcoming spectacle. But what is an eclipse? A solar eclipse is a natural phenomenon that occurs when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, causing a complete or partial blockage of the sun's light. The entire event typically lasts up to 3 hours, from start to finish. However, during this eclipse, the duration of complete blockage of the sun from any given location along the path will be about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The word eclipse comes from the Latin word eclipsis, which in turn is derived from the Greek word eclipsis. The Greek word means an abandonment, or more literally, a failing or forsaking. The word eclipsis is a combination of two words, ek meaning out or away, and lipine, meaning to leave behind or fail to appear. During a solar eclipse, the sun does not actually abandon or forsake us. Rather, we find ourselves in the shadow of the moon, which causes the darkness. Did you know that the Earth is not the only planet that experiences total solar eclipses? However, it is the only planet in our solar system that allows such an event to be seen from its surface. Mercury and Venus do not have any moons, so they do not experience eclipses. Mars has 2 small moons that cannot obscure the sun, while the gas giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune have large enough moons, but their gaseous nature makes it impossible to stand on their surface and witness a total solar eclipse. Hence, the Earth is the only planet in our solar system that provides the best opportunity to observe a total solar eclipse. In ancient times, many cultures believed that solar eclipses occurred due to the sun or the moon being devoured by animals or demons. According to Chinese folklore, a black dog or dragon eats the sun during an eclipse, while in Vietnam a giant frog does the devouring. In some religious cultures, an eclipse is associated with an impending apocalypse, either literally or symbolically. The creation of lights. Rabbinic Judaism interprets Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 to mean that celestial events are signs from God. Then God said, Let there be light bearers, sun, moon, stars, in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be useful for signs, tokens of God's provident care, and for marking seasons, days, and years. And let them be useful as lights in the expanse of the heavens, to provide light on the earth. And it was so, just as he commanded. God made the two great lights, the greater light, the sun, to rule the day, and the lesser light, the moon, to rule the night. He made the galaxies of stars also, that is, all the amazing wonders in the heavens. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to provide light upon the earth, to rule over the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and he affirmed and sustained it. And there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19. According to this interpretation, the sun, moon, and stars were created on the fourth day as light bearers and to help establish a calendar. God created the sun and the moon to be lights in the sky that would serve as signs and seasons. From ancient times, human beings have relied on these celestial bodies to measure time and direction. God knew the exact distance to set the sun from the earth. If it were a few million miles closer or farther, life as we know it would be impossible. The intricate balance of our ecosystem provides strong evidence for the existence of a creator. We live in a very complex world. When God placed the lights in the heavens to be used as signs, it likely included what we know today as constellations. The ancient Hebrews called this the Mazzaroth. Does eclipse signify the end times? Many parts of the Bible talk about astronomical phenomena in the sky when the end of the world is near. This includes the sun, the moon, the stars, shooting stars, and maybe even eclipses. These are all part of stories in the Bible about the end of the world. For example, when asked about the timing of the end times, Jesus says, "There will be signs attesting miracles in the sun and moon and stars, and on the earth there will be distress and anguish among nations, in perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea and the waves." Luke chapter 21, verse 25. Many people wonder if the end times are near when rare astronomical phenomena occur. End times expectations seem to be mainly fueled by eclipses and blood moons. There are some who believe that Matthew chapter 24, verse 29 links the solar eclipse with the end times. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not provide its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not flash with their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shed its light. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 10. During a solar eclipse, the sun is noticeably darkened, and the light that is typically reflected by the moon disappears. Similarly, during a lunar eclipse, the amount of light that is typically reflected by the moon decreases significantly. This suggests that there could be a potential connection between an eclipse and the end times. It is impossible to connect any specific eclipse with the fulfillment of end times prophecy. Eclipses are quite frequent natural events. A total solar eclipse takes place on Earth approximately once every 18 months, while partial solar eclipses occur several times a year. Total lunar eclipses happen almost every year in most parts of the world. Despite the thousands of total and partial solar and lunar eclipses that have occurred since the time Jesus spoke the words recorded in Matthew chapter 24, none of them seem to have had any significance to end times Bible prophecy. It is crucial to consider the entirety of Jesus' words in Matthew chapter 24, commonly referred to as the Olivet Discourse, in addition to the possible eclipse. The eclipse is only one of many signs that Jesus discusses. Here is the complete verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not provide its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Many people focus on the darkening of the sun and moon, but they often overlook the falling stars and shaking planets. Additionally, in verse 15, Jesus mentions that the sign will appear immediately after the distress, which is a reference to the abomination of desolation. According to verse 21, there will be a time of unprecedented distress, so severe that it won't be matched by any other time in human history. This time of tribulation will be so terrible that if it weren't cut short, no one would survive. It's important to note that Jesus isn't talking about an ordinary eclipse here, but instead, a time when a range of other signs will occur during the middle of the tribulation.